Be close to this.
Enquanto os líderes debatiam, os soldados insistiam para que a marcha seguisse para Jerusalém. Para eles, a verdadeira intenção da cruzada havia sido esquecida. Todo o rancor e frustração finalmente vieram à tona em Ma'ara al-Numan, numa cidadezinha a 2 dias de cavalgada de Antioquia.
So this is where the legacy of the First Crusade really took place. I think it's a landmark for any historian to visit this place. This is where the First Crusade really made their violent legacy.
Este local seria palco da maior atrocidade cometida pelos cristãos na Primeira Cruzada. Esta é a primeira visita do Dr. Taef al-Azari a Ma'ara al-Numan, o local da maior barbárie da Primeira Cruzada. Localizada no extremo noroeste da Síria, esta cidade do século XI nunca foi esquecida. Suas ruínas, que hoje servem de parque para as crianças, escondem momentos de selvageria.
I think we are really making our way into the citadel of Ma'arat, and to the left the remains of the mosque, and to the right hand the remain of the little palace for the ruler of the city. Probably this was a church serving the Christian population of Ma'arat and Nu'man, who were living peacefully side by side with their fellow Muslims. And of course the Crusaders were really indiscriminate about killing all the inhabitants of Ma'ara, regardless of their faith or their religion.
Enquanto os cruzados consolidavam o controle das terras de Antioquia, um pequeno contingente liderado por Bohemundo chegou à região em novembro de 1098.
We came to the city named Murat, not far off, in which many Turks and Saracens lived. Bohemund sent an interpreter to the Saracen leaders to tell them if they, with their wives and children and goods, would take refuge in a palace just above the city gates, he would spare them from death. All our men entered the gates. Each of them seized his own share of whatever goods he could find in all the houses and cellars. And towards dawn, everybody was killed.
بعدين فجأة في عام 1099 ظهر جيش أوروبي جاي من فرنسا من إيطاليا. The sources really tell us about the suffering for all the inhabitants. Some of them were really lit in fire, and people were really just fried inside, burned alive inside. Some managed to escape. Of course, they cannot really escape the butchery of the Crusaders, decapitated or knifed 1,000 times. 20,000, 25,000 were really massacred inside the town. Not only the Muslims were massacred, also Christians as well. Not only soldiers, but also children, elderly, women met their violent fate. So it was really a war crime place, kind of an ethnic cleansing.
A traição e depois o massacre tornaram-se símbolos do exército cruzado. Mas, segundo algumas testemunhas cristãs, foi o que aconteceu depois da carnificina que pôs em destaque a história de Ma'ara al-Numan.
The Franks stayed in the city for 1 month and 4 days. And while we were there, some of our men could not satisfy their needs. Either because we were there too long, or because they were so hungry, for there was no plunder to be had outside the city walls. So they ripped up the bodies of the dead, and others cut the dead flesh into slices and cooked it to eat. Our troops boiled pagan adults in cooking pots. They impaled children on spits to devour their flesh.
There is no such thing as a spiritual war. When you fight a war, the aim of that war is to defeat your enemy. They involve violence, they involve threats, they involve propaganda, and they involve, let's put it like this, shock and awe. And the eating of human flesh was designed to strike fear in the heart of the enemy. Here we are strong, we are tough, and if necessary, we'll eat you up alive. And to a certain extent, that succeeded. I mean, there was a wave of horror and fear. They eat us. And if they're eating us dead tomorrow, they might eat us alive.
Para os líderes da cruzada, a barbárie em Maara era a prova de que seus homens não suportavam mais esperar. Era chegada a hora de cumprir a promessa e tomar a cidade pela qual arriscaram tudo em nome de Deus. Para eles, era irrelevante o fato de que Jerusalém fora tomada pelos Fatimidas do Egito, uma força muçulmana mais conciliadora que ansiava pela paz. Em junho de 1099, 13.000 cruzados, menos de um quarto do número que partiu da Europa, chegaram aos portões da cidade em que Jesus Cristo morreu.
When the Crusaders reached the walls of Jerusalem, they finally arrived at their goal. After 3 years, 3,000 miles marching, the most incredible suffering, terrible losses, they'd arrived at the holy city. Some were so overwhelmed with emotion they wept, others prostrated themselves on the ground. But now, of course, the hardest task of all faced them. They had to break in.
Depois de 3 anos de marcha, o exército cruzado estava prestes a atacar Jerusalém. Os muros de 15 metros de altura e 3 de espessura intimidavam. A escalada exigiria escadas e torres de cerco, mas os muçulmanos haviam cortado todas as árvores das cercanias. Os cristãos se dividiram em grupos e saíram em busca de madeira. Em uma cova aberta, eles encontraram 400 pedaços de madeira cortada. Parecia que, mais uma vez, Deus estava do lado deles. Era material suficiente para construir 2 torres de 12 metros e finalmente invadir a cidade de Jerusalém. Estava tudo preparado para o confronto final. No dia 14 de julho de 1099, os cruzados lançaram um ataque duplo. Uma das torres foi levada para o lado norte de Jerusalém e a outra para o lado sul. Os muçulmanos sabiam que se apenas um grupo alcançasse o topo da muralha, a cidade sucumbiria.
You can look up at these walls and imagine missiles, stones, arrows raining down upon you. The fighting was barbaric and intense, and at one point the Crusaders gave the phrase live ammunition its literal meaning. They captured a Muslim, strapped him to a catapult and fired him back over the walls.
No lado sul, os muçulmanos arremessaram jarros de óleo incandescente contra a torre até que ela pegasse fogo.